Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this video. Today, I'm looking at the AQA Comedy Anthology in order to show students studying the AQA Lit B course how they might want to write about the poem Tam O Shanter in relation to a question that has already come up in previous years. So this video is aimed at both AS students and A-level students because this text might feature in both years of your course. So I just want to, before I get to the paragraph, remind you that the best thing to do for AQA Lit B is to answer the question that is set, and you can show that you're doing that by repeating the keyword in the task or synonyms for it throughout your answer. So the question that we're looking at today in this video is explore the view that the poems are more disturbing than amusing. So that in bold there is the focus of the task, the words disturbing, and whether or not the poem or poems are disturbing rather than amusing. So in this video, the central argument that I'm going to try and present to the examiner in my paragraph is that Tam is used as a device of ridicule, fueled by drunkenness, so much so that he is unable to perceive any sense of danger or show any awareness of his disturbing surroundings. Now, of course, that's perhaps entertaining for us to read about, but it might not be as entertaining for him or, in fact, his horse, who, as we know, gets her tail pulled off at the end of the poem. So that is the central argument. So I've already started this paragraph, and I'm going to continue to write this live on the document as you're watching. So I've started off by saying Tam, the embodiment of the typical lovable rogue, is used as a device to ridicule the uncultivated and unrefined behaviours of the lower social classes, reminding us that comedy is often about those without status. Fueled by drunkenness, he is unable to perceive any sense of danger as he approaches Kirk Alloway, failing to show any awareness of his disturbing surroundings as the poem builds towards its climax. So I've got the word there, disturbing, in there, showing that I'm now kind of relating to I'm linking it to the task I've been asked. So the challenge that students always ask and aware of with Tam is the fact that it might be closed book, in which case you've got to remember any quotes. And of course, the poem is written in Scots, and that can pose an extra layer of challenge to students, particularly second years, who don't have the book with them. For AS, of course, it is open book. You do have the text, but for A-level students, that's not the case. So any textual references you have to put in would be in memory. You wouldn't have them in front of you because this is closed book. So what I want to now talk about is the fact that this is a place of folklore. So set in air, the setting reinforces how this modest rural community is a place of folklore, a place where oral stories are passed down the generations, most of which are recollected by the speaker of the poem, most of which are recollected by the speaker of the poem in disturbing detail. There we go. I was thinking because I needed to think about the keywords of the question. So we have, for example, a murdered bairn, which is a murdered child, and a man called Mungo. His mother hanged herself apparently somewhere in this location. So these kind of details are pretty disturbing. They're quite eerie, provide an eerie and uncomfortable mood. This creates an ominous sense of foreboding, as does the pathetic fallacy of the stormy weather. suggesting that tension is building and Tam may be in danger because of where he is. Okay. 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 While mounted on horseback, Tam notices an uncouth sight as he looks through the window of the church. And spell check is not going to be my friend for this slide, so it probably won't recognise some of these words. So while mounted on horseback, Tam notices an uncouth sight with warlocks and witches dancing, and coffins stood around with showing the dead. I think they were holding candles. There are also, I believe it's 5 schemata with murder crusted, meaning that they've basically got blood on them. So a weapon that has been used for harm. I think that's how you spell it. At least that's how you spell it in the poem, I believe. While mounted on horseback, Tam noticed an uncouth sight with warlocks and witches dancing and coffins around showing the dead. There are also 5 murder crusted, providing disturbing, I'm going to use that word again, disturbing details which juxtapose with the party atmosphere of carefree jubilation. It's what you would expect from a party in comedy. Usually when people get together, they're having a good time. There's usually alcohol as well. So you expect a party and part of comedy, yes, but clearly what Burns has done here has kind of twisted it round and made this party actually quite a spectacle of kind of ludicrous characterization. So where have I got to here? So let's put that in. Whereas parties and togetherness in comedy can bring joy and happiness, Burns has inverted this due to the inclusion of gothic and disturbing characters, which is absurd in itself. I mean, you know, the devil is sat in there in a window seat with a dog on his feet, so it's pretty ridiculous. So I think I'm coming to the end of this paragraph now. I think what I want to say are 2 things. I think that I want to just link to the fact that in comedy, deaths and suffering are often prevented. And I also want to say that maybe the absurdity of this poem does make it amusing, but you can't maybe overlook the disturbing details. So whereas there are comedic aspects, deaths and suffering prevented, parties, I suppose drunkenness, and happy resolution of sorts, many readers can no, resolution of sorts, the disturbing details perhaps outweigh the amusing aspects. Do I need to add anything else here? Despite the speaker seemingly taking pleasure from telling readers the tale of Tam's drunken night. Something like that. I think I'm happy with that. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of that underlined word there because that is how it's written in the poem. So, my central argument then for this was the argument that Tam as a character is used as a device to show ridicule, and he puts himself into ridiculous situations because of his drunkenness. He feels invincible, and he's unable to perceive any sense of danger. So the details that readers get, we feel on edge because of the details that we get, such as the gothic details, the disturbing details, and yet Tam is seemingly oblivious to it, and that might make us laugh at him or ridicule him, but it can also be quite disturbing as well. I just want to add, actually, as I was talking, that I just want to add a final sentence here to do with comedy generally. Comedy can simply entertain, but it can also teach that with foolishness comes ridicule and what to avoid to escape the same mockery. So essentially what I'm saying there is that comedy can just simply be written to entertain us. But actually, comedy can also be used to teach us something, and that is the behaviour to avoid. In other words, Tam is being used as an example here of what not to be like. And the threat of ridicule and mockery could be a way that people prevent themselves from being like Tam. And that links to the end of the poem where it says, "Beware Tam O Shanter's mare," or "Remember Tam O Shanter's mare," the idea that when you want to drink, remember this story, because you might also get yourself into a ridiculous situation like this. So, Tam, the embodiment of the typical lovable rogue, is used as a device to ridicule the uncultivated and unrefined behaviours of the lower social classes, reminding us that comedy is often about those without status. Fueled by drunkenness, he is unable to perceive any sense of danger as he approaches Kirk Alloway, failing to show any awareness of his disturbing surroundings as the poem builds towards its climax. Set in Ayr, the setting reinforces how this modest rural community is a place of folklore, a place where oral stories are passed down the generations, most of which are recollected by the speaker of the poem in disturbing detail. Murdered Bane and Mungo's mother hanged herself provide an eerie and uncomfortable mood. This creates an ominous sense of foreboding, as does the pathetic fallacy of the stormy weather, suggesting that tension is building, and Tam may be in danger because of where he is. While mounted on horseback, Tam notices an uncouth sight, with warlocks and witches dancing and coffins stood around, showing the dead. There are also 5 schematas with murder crusted, providing disturbing details which juxtapose with the party atmosphere of carefree jubilation. Whereas parties and togetherness in comedy can bring joy and happiness, Burns has inverted this due to the inclusion of gothic and disturbing characters, disturbing events and characters, I want to say there, which is absurd in itself. Whereas there are comedic aspects, deaths and suffering prevented, parties, drunkenness, and a happy resolution of sorts, the disturbing details perhaps outweigh the amusing aspects, despite the speaker seemingly taking pleasure from telling readers the tale of Tam's drunken night. Hence, comedy can simply entertain, but it can also teach that with foolishness comes ridicule, and what to avoid to escape the same mockery. All right. So hopefully that was useful. Like I've said before, there are numerous ways to write a paragraph in English. The most important thing is you answer the question, and by repeating, in this case, the words disturbing and or amusing, you would show the examiner that that is what you were doing. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and good luck in your studies. Thanks.